last
Well,
take?
we just learned something. First of all, the first take we heard, folks, is the original take. I mean, is the release
78.
take. That was the take that's been known all these years. You just heard two other takes. One was made before that, prior to that. It's obvious the engineer was goofing. It was also obvious the band didn't know the chart.
Yeah, bass.
It was also obvious that the Shadow didn't know it as well as he did on the main one, on the big one. And then what we heard at the third one, we heard was another take
Right.
that was not usable. There's only one strange thing about that whole thing, and it bothers me now, is that the 2-bar break is the same on all three of them. And I don't understand that, because I'm surprised. I would have figured that he played 3 different breaks,
Yeah.
because I mean, to have come up. So that means he had that down.
Yeah.
That meant he'd been playing it in the first place. That means he knew that break. I thought it was spontaneous, and it obviously was not.
Yeah.
It obviously was
It
not.
was a worked out thing. He
It was
probably
a worked out. It was a worked out
break.
break. I'm a little drug about that now, because I always considered it to be one of the greatest. It still shouldn't take away from what it was.
Right, exactly, but it's just
The break still is fantastic. I mean, but Kenny, you hear this? If you're listening, Kenny Washington, I'm talking to,
yeah.
because he's one of the. I know that he would feel the same way as me about this. That is strange.
Yeah.
See, I never heard these other two takes. Now that does bother me a little bit. In fact, one of the breaks, he played it even cleaner than he did on the original.
Yeah.
Was even better. But they're all exactly the same. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, which means it was not a spontaneous situation,
Right.
and I thought it was after all these years. So that's a little bit of a drag.
Yeah.
But he's still a great drummer.
Still great.
Yeah.
We're talking about Shadow Wilson with Mel Lewis. It's 8:29. You're listening to WKCR FM in New York, 89.9 on your FM dial. Lauren Schoenberg here with you, and learning a lot and having a lot of fun listening to a lot of great records with Mel Lewis, talking about the history of jazz drums. Again, the next part will be next Tuesday afternoon, noon to 3. And on that show, we'll get into Buddy Rich, Kenny Clark, Max Roach, and Shelly Mann. And now, Shadow Wilson was born, I believe, in 1917 or 1919, and right around the same time as Dizzy and Monk and all those guys. But
Yeah.
yet he really seemed to straddle between being a swing drummer and being, typed, for whatever that's worth,
Yeah.
as a bebop drummer. Right now, I'd like to hear him in a quartet setting, and these are some very, for their day, avant-garde recordings. They're still masterpieces. July 2nd, 1948, these are some of the original Thelonious Monk Blue Note recordings. Shadow Wilson on the drums, John Simmons on bass, Milt Jackson on vibes, and Monk on piano. And we'll hear how Shadow fit in on the first recording of Evidence. Shadow Wilson with Milt Jackson, John Simmons, and Shadow Wilson.
And Monk.
And Thelonious Monk. I started with Shadow, yeah.
Yeah, well, that for those days that was pretty out, and but see, now you could tell. Now he fit in good there. He fit in good. He was trying to make that transition, and you know, with Monk you don't get too fancy anyway. Monk takes care of the funny stuff. You keep time. He's still like, You know, that's why Frank Dunlop fits so beautifully in that group, because he knew how to groove with him perfectly. In fact, I think Dunlop was probably the best drummer that Monk ever had, actually. But
He was doing some pretty weird stuff with the bass. He seemed like he was.
he
in
was
some pretty
catching
weird places.
all the off accents and all that. But you can still hear that he was still playing with the dotted 8/16 feel, which was still predominant in the 40s for drummers. The drummers were the last to learn, you know, to be able to get that little more open feeling that they were using, because you say ba be da da do da, you know,
Mhm.
and the drummers are playing ta ta da ta ta da instead of da ta da. You got to open it up, da do da da do da. You got to do that too, and but that means changing your whole way. You know, I mean, it's not something you just do overnight.
The three titles we heard were Evidence, I'm in You, and Epistrophe, and that was recorded back in July 1948. One thing about all the drummers we've heard so far, and specifically the three today, Shadow, Dave Tuff, and Big Sid, is that they were the greatest as big band drummers and also the greatest as small band drummers. And I'd like to ask Mel, when did that come into the music business, when people say, well, he's a small group drummer or he's a big band drummer? Because it seems back in these days there was no such thing. You're either a drummer or you weren't.
Exactly, and there still isn't. This business of you're a big band drummer or you're a small group drummer is stupid. I mean, I'm noted as a big band drummer. I spend most of my life playing with small groups. I mean, what are they talking about? You know, you make a living playing what you get called to play. I mean, there's no such thing as big band, small group. There are guys who cannot handle a big band because they can't read, they can't hear, they're afraid of, they don't have the confidence to, I mean, after all, it's a little harder to hold 17 people together than it is to hold 3. You know, it takes, but it doesn't take strength, it takes knowledge, you know. It takes know-how, that's all. And the know-how, man, if you can swing a trio, why the hell can't you swing 17? You know, it's a matter of using your ears, you know, and you don't have to play louder either. They all think I got to play real loud. You don't play real loud. That's the last thing you should do. The louder you play, that's when you start losing it. No, these guys were all musicians. They could do anything they were asked to do, and they were right. And that's the way it is. You're a drummer, you're a musician, you know. And there are guys who excelled, say, at trio drumming, you know, like we were talking before about
Charlie Smith.
Charlie Smith, who was excellent trio
Denzel
drummer.
Best.
Ed Thigpen was a great trio drummer.
Denzel Best.
Denzel Best was wonderful with a quintet or quartet. You know, I mean, he was a great small group drummer. Of course, we never heard him with a big band. You know, who knows? He was a trumpet player before. Maybe he played trumpet in section with a big band. But, you know, we just never got to hear him with a big band. That doesn't mean he couldn't do it. But there are certain people who excel at certain things. I happen to be a very good big band drummer. That's one of the things I do very well. But damn it, I think I play just as well in a small group. You know, I don't think I'm outstanding at one and just fair in the other. I think I can do them all just as well. Same as Buddy did, and same as Sid and Davy Tuff and Shadow and
Tiny Khan.
Man, you and Shelly Man and all that. You do it. You're a musician. There's no such thing as a one-way street. And if you put yourself in that category, if you make yourself that way, then there's something wrong with you. Now, there are some drummers who play a style, who fall into a style that just sounds horrible in a small group. Or it sounds horrible in a big band. It just doesn't sound right. And they're not flexible enough to move around with the music. Now, that's their fault. There should be no reason for that. They should be capable of doing anything.
I'd like to play one more recording by Shadow Wilson. He was, after leaving Basie's band, he probably might indeed have worked with Monk around New York and the few gigs that Monk was playing in 48 and 49, but he really was quite successful as a member of Illinois Jacquette's little big band that he had in 1948, 49, people like John Lewis and Joe Newman and J.J. Johnson and Leo Parker. And right now I'd like to feature a recording called Hot Rod that was unavailable for many years, but it's recently been reissued on the Bluebird label, Illinois Jacquet, the Black Velvet Band. And from May 22nd, 1950, we'll hear Hot Rod. And let's see who the solos are by. I'm looking at the liner notes here. Joe Newman on trumpet, Illinois Jacquet, and a little bit of Battle of the Saxophones. But there's a nice little solo here by Shadow Wilson, and I think you get a kick out of it. Shadow Wilson again on the drums with Illinois Jacquet.
See how good he sounded on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, now, obviously, that was his meat. You know, he was very comfortable there. And I really enjoyed that, probably more than anything I heard by him tonight, although, because I know him anyway, and I'm familiar with the other things.
For many years.
But that kind of, what we used to call those jump bands, you know? I used to work with those, too, when I was young, coming up in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I worked with Heads Adams Band and with Al Williams Band, and we used to work on top of bars, you know, four horns and four rhythm.
Yeah.
And boy, people would be lined up. The bar would be a long bar, and then the chicks would come out and dance, you know. And
there seemed to be
little shows.
Having heard you play a lot, there seemed to be little moments there where he's doing kind of like.
Yeah, it's a rub-a-dub. That's what it really is. That's
what you mean, but he's doing those.
It's called rub-a-dub. Some guys call it rub-a-dub.
Friend John Erdley
yeah, whatever
says.
it is. That's what it really is, you know.
Yeah.
And
how? I mean, I know we're talking about things that are purely musical, and that really to really find out, you just have to listen to the record. But how would you just put into words what we're talking about right there with that kind of like fill stuff? Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. It's a thing where you're always moving. You're moving all the time.
Right.
You're playing the time. You're playing ding, ching a ding, ching a ding, ching a ding. And what's happening with your left hand and back and forth between your bass drum and that right hand, because you're not playing ding, ding a ding all the time. You're playing back and forth between your left hand and your right hand. You're playing figures. So you're not really playing ding, ding a ding.
No.
But it comes out sounding like you are. And then the bass drum is taking part in that too. and it comes out sounding like ka-chicka, taka, 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 taka. That's the feeling of it all the way, and it's got
Yeah.
so much movement.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of sound. That's what you're actually hearing. But you're hearing combinations of things
Right.
that make it seem like that. It's all illusion.
I was listening to you play last week, and I was noticing that it actually struck me. And I want to ask you when we get to you in our drum history in a subsequent show is when you decided that you weren't going to play ding ding da ding ding da ding anymore, and that you're going to go bah. I mean, because you know what I mean, because you
Yeah.
do it. But I mean, I heard your ride cymbal beat on something you were doing last week. I mean, it was amazing. I mean, it was never ding ding da ding ding da ding. It was all this other stuff, man.
I couldn't even do ding ding ding. I don't even know how to do that.
Yeah.
I can't keep anything going straight ahead. If you insist I do, you're in trouble, or I'm in trouble.
We're all in trouble because time has really run out. We're gonna be back next Tuesday from noon to 3 with Mel Lewis, and I hope you enjoyed this installment of the History of Jazz Drums with Davey Tuff, Big Sid, and Shadow Wilson. Next week, if we have time, we're going to hope to get to Buddy Rich, Max Roach, Kenny Clark, and Shelly Mann. And whichever one we don't get to, we'll just pick up when we do the next
That's it.
installment. We got to get to Tiny Khan. We have to talk about Cozy Cole. We have to talk about Roy Haynes and Elvin and Blakey and Tony Williams and all the other great drummers who have come up. So, Mel, thanks for your time tonight.
Oh, it was a pleasure as always.
And like
Larry.
to mention that we had in the studio Mr. Freddie Gruber,
Yeah, and he
who's
kept
known
quiet.
who's known to
But
drumming fans.
Freddie
alike.
knows what's happening.
He does.
And
He was there too,
he's
and
been around. He knows and knew most of these people we're talking.
That's right.
about.
So it's nice to have him in the studio with us
Great.
tonight. We're going to go out with something from Mel Lewis 6, Mode LP 103, recorded in June 1957. Mel Lewis, Charlie Mariano, Bill Holman, Jack Sheldon, Marty Page, and Buddy Clark. And I know you like Brookside because we've
Yeah,
played
I
that
like
before.
that.
Yeah, this is an original by Bob Brookmeyer. Charlie Mariano on tenor and Bill Holman on baritone. That's different. Yeah. From what was one of the rarest collector items records, which has since been reissued now, so you can get a reissue of it. Although
Yeah,
the
you can get it
original
it's on
is still,
CD now.
yeah, the Mel Lewis Sextet, the New Star
Yeah,
series.
the Mel Lewis and Friends record with Michael Brecker and
Freddie Hubbard.
Freddie Hubbard and
Hank.
Hank Jones, Ron Carter. It's out now again. It's back. It's out on CD.
Yeah, I remember when that record came out on A&M,
Yeah.
Horizon. Yeah, Mel Lewis and Friends.
Michael Brecker is now a star.
At least they didn't put it out as a Michael Brecker record.
No. I'm just glad he's on it now.
Sure,
It might help me a little
He
bit.
plays Moose the Mooch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays a
Yeah,
great
he plays
solo.
very
on that.
good on it.
8 minutes before 9 o'clock. Bye, everybody. Let's go out with Mel Lewis and Friends back about 32 years ago. This is Brookside.